In a new 150-page book entitled Let's Dream, penned during the Vatican's coronavirus lockdown, 83-year-old Pope Francis is supporting demands for racial justice in the wake of the U.S. police killing of George Floyd and is blasting COVID-19 skeptics and media organizations to spread their conspiracies. Francis also criticized populist politicians who whip up rallies in ways reminiscent of the 1930s and the hypocrisy of rigid conservative Catholics who support them. But he also criticizes the forceful downing of historic statues during protests for racial equality this year as a misguided attempt to purify the past. Joining us now to talk more from Greenville, South Carolina is Dr. Yue Thompson. Dr. Yue, the book is due out December 1st. Francis has accused some in the church and Catholic media of being a part of the problem. This is a pretty heavy statement overall.
Absolutely, Nietzsche. We find that Pope Francis and other popes like him have always drawn a hard line in the sand relative to black and brown people in this country and across this globe who are experiencing marginalization at some form or another at the hands of the empire. And this is just another example of him taking center stage and being the true leader that he is. I've always had an appreciation for him and Roman Catholicism in its approach toward social justice, toward the plight of the poor, women and children, as well as toward blacks and brown people in America and beyond.
Do you feel, Dr. Yue, that this is his statements are economically driven, driven by what in a perfect world, what many would love to see after the coronavirus, hopefully has dissolved in some kind of capacity, or that we've had a vaccine and been able to get out of this global pandemic scenario?
No, I don't think it's economically driven. I think his statements are bathed in theological interpretation. I think he has weighed heavy the theological arguments that the Bible, particularly the claims of Christ, present regarding our treatment of our neighbor, who in this instant happened to be black and brown. I think the COVID issue diametrically affects those people that are of your skin and mine. And we are dying most behind it, and because of it, police brutality and the lack of police reform affect people who look like you and I most. So I think he is right, and I think it's theologically motivated more so than economically driven.
What's interesting here, Dr. Yue, is that this book was written in the midst of a world crisis. I think the first of its time is someone in his office. This book comes out in just a few weeks. I'm pretty sure it's going to be something that many people pick up and read so they can hear how the Pope speaks about having a socially justice world overall, and also just picking up on his temperament and his temperature concerning what's happening in our world currently. Dr. Yue, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Nietzsche. Always my pleasure. Great story.